Hello. To better understand how audience members decode media messages, I will interview 3 of my peers in an effort to carefully analyze and interpret the way they respond to media today. Throughout the 3 interviews, I will establish each individual's media diet by asking him or her general questions. I will then show them all the same commercial by Procter & Gamble, followed by some questions to see how each of them interpreted what was seen. My research question is, how does gender representation influence the way you view a brand? For this type of audience research, I have decided to conduct individual interviews. I felt this method would be better than focus groups because it will allow each individual to feel comfortable discussing his or her rationale for why he or she feels the way he or she feels. The way people view gender representation in the media can be a touchy subject. A personal interview is more intimate. Additionally, it will allow me to better steer the conversation and guide the questions based on the responses I receive. There were a few things I considered when picking my informants. As Jane Stokes says, people who share your interests and lifestyle are willing to help out. Therefore, I chose 3 of my friends, 2 boys and 1 girl, to be sure I had variation in gender since I am researching how gender representation influences behavior. Interviewing the informants allowed me to gather an overall view of how each uses media, to be able to ask them how they relate to certain characters in the media, and having this understanding through each interview, I was able to gain insight on whether the way gender is represented in the media sways the consumer's decision to remain loyal to that brand.
Got what you want, got what you need. Live your dream, achieve your fantasy.
Sarah? Clean enough?
The first informant I interviewed was my friend Ryan, a 26-year-old male. His favorite type of media is found in TV shows. He usually identifies with the side characters as he feels he is a more introverted person or somebody who's not always in the spotlight. Ryan believes that the media especially likes to highlight very strong masculine and very strong feminine characteristics. Therefore, it is more difficult for him to connect as he doesn't consider himself very masculine or feminine. He does appreciate how the media has evolved since he was younger, and women can be seen more in powerful roles than in the past. After showing him the ad, here was a thought he expressed.
I'd probably say that making a job seem more or less important per gender is something I didn't like. I used to be a cleaner, and so it's a job that anybody can and should be able to do, and just because you're a man doing it doesn't make it more or less appealing.
I then interviewed my friend Steph, a 20-year-old working female. She is really big in social media, and she even has her own YouTube and Instagram channels. Steph is a woman who is aiming toward empowering women's presence in the media. A very active user, she posts content about helping people live a better life. She identifies with other social media personalities and YouTubers, particularly women. Here were some of her thoughts.
This ad just wasn't for me. I typically would have been able to identify with Sarah, but I do consider myself a working class woman, and I just didn't like how the producers kind of depicted her as lusty as they did, and she kind of just threw herself onto Mr. Clean, which just didn't really sit right with me. But what really did me in, though, was when her husband, aka Mr. Clean, was rewarded for doing housework, and I just didn't like the way that they represented gender in it. So that just I don't know. I just don't think I'd be investing in that brand.
The third informant I interviewed was my coworker Luke, a 29-year-old male. Luke dabs into similar media like Ryan and Steph do, but he's a really big video gamer and enjoys anything science fiction. He really identifies with powerful men, like superheroes seen in the Marvel or Star Wars franchises. Luke shared that he doesn't really care too much for super sexual content in the media, belittling women. He knows there is a lot of it out there, but in a day like today, thinks the media could portray women as more powerful objects, like superheroes, instead of sexual objects. Luke is a very chill, laid-back guy, and although he doesn't appreciate what was seen in the ad, wouldn't necessarily let it sway his decision. The theme I saw across the 3 interviews demonstrates poor gender representation in the ad. It is safe to say that gender representation in the media certainly influences the way the informants feel about a brand, and although some felt stronger than others, it was consistent throughout. Procter & Gamble assigned a gender role to housewife Sarah, leaving the viewer to interpret that it is the woman's job to clean the house. Additionally, men get rewarded for doing the same thing. My interviewees Ryan and Steph particularly expressed concern that they did not think it was right for Sarah to be portrayed as a vulnerable, sloppy woman who was turned on by a man's actions. Steph was so fed up with the fact that a woman was seen as a prize that she flat out told me that she would not invest in the brand. Interpreting Steph's position, I found that she felt exactly how our class text authors Cruto and Hoynes say she would. They say working-class women are consistently critical of the image of both the independent working woman and the stereotypically sexy woman, in large part because they perceive them to be unrealistic, bearing little resemblance to their sense of what it means to be a woman in American society. After reviewing my analysis of this text for my videographic essay, I could not agree more. The way the ad depicted the female character as vulnerable, luscious, sexual, and a prize is degrading and belittling, and it weakens the way I feel about the brand, as women are just as capable as men. Cruto and Hoynes suggest oppositional decoding and resistance. These both would be useful concepts to resist domination of men, like seen in the Procter & Gamble ad. I believe that applying these concepts would take this study in a new direction, as we would evaluate how audiences engage in such resistance and identify what consequences follow. Resisting the brand is the start, and my interviewee Steph is the first step in my study.